Welcome to Under Two Capes, the show where I and a friend of mine that knows less about comic books chat about the latest comic book storylines, characters, weird story ideas. I'm looking at you one more day, and just generally we just chat about comic books and geek out about stuff. So if that's your thing, like, comment, subscribe. I'm Jared.
I'm Lad.
And today we are talking about a Spider-Man storyline that actually Lad turned me on to. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man Ends of the Earth, which I read somewhere is that this is part of the lead up to Superior Spider-Man.
Yes, I wanted to give a quick rundown of where kind of like the timeline is and all this.
Go ahead.
We're this is around 2012 right now, but this storyline all started with a new writer called Dan Slott in 2010. This is like, one more day where they reset Peter Parker, made him a teenager again, and he's not married. That was 2007 or so. There was a few more storylines after that, but basically Dan Slott took over in 2010. And he started with the big time storyline where Spider-Man decides to reinvent himself and not let anyone die on his watch. The heroes or villains, good guys or bad guys, it doesn't matter. He's going to save everyone.
He's kind of in the wrong profession for the whole no one dies while I'm around rule.
Right. So I mean, because he's been through so much where people die on his watch, so he decides that he's really going to up his game. He upgrades his tech. He's really working full-time Spider-Man and full-time at Horizon High Laboratories. And he's trying to be the best hero he can. And after the big time storyline, the next one right after was Spider Island. And we covered Spider Island on the podcast with Jared and I. And that was where we got to see, everyone turning into Spider-Man characters. And that was crazy. And then this is to the next story. This is the next big storyline, Ends of the Earth. And throughout Dan Slott's run, ever since issue 600, they've been teasing that Doctor Octopus is dying from all the radioactive stuff he's been doing.
Plus,
and so
he's been punched in the face by people that have super strength. Yeah.
Right.
Even I'm like really surprised that half of these super villains still can say their name at this point.
Right. No, you're right.
Every time you're hit in the face with Cap's shield, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I know. That's a good point. It's a good point. So Doctor Octopus is dying. That's been kind of like in the background of ever since Brand New Day and everything. But End of the Earth is a really cool storyline because we are very close to the next story. Right after this comes the storyline Dying Wish, where Parker actually dies and Dr. Octavius takes over his body, and we get the entire Superior Spider-Man storyline.
Oh, so immediately after this is Superior.
Oh, very close. Ends of the Earth is 682 to 687. Then comes the Dying Wish storyline in issue 700. And that's where Amazing Spider-Man ends for a brief period. And then a Superior Spider-Man starts. So
that's cool.
Dying Wish would be our next storyline, and then Superior Spider-Man. So we're actually in a good order to read this in. We're just gonna check it out.
I just realized this as I was reading the storyline. We're covering these legitimately in order.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we can go back and do big time with Dan Slott's first storyline. But yeah, Spider Island, Ends of the Earth. We're just covering them in order. So let's just jump into it and kind of talk about it. Jared, maybe give us a quick summary of what it was about.
Oh, by the way, and FYI, yes, I do rule Atlantis, as you can see by my little friend here. It was a Christmas present.
Jared got a new toy to play with.
I can flood the earth. Okay, so this storyline is basically Doc Ock telling people, I've seen the light. I'm going to help help the world so I can have a better like legacy to leave behind. And to do that, I'm going to solve global warming. And I love how fast everyone jumps on the Doctor Octopus is right, except like Spider-Man and Mary Jane. Even the Avengers were like, can he actually do that? And then Spider-Man's like, he's a supervillain. What the hell are you guys talking about?
Right. Yeah, they're like, you can't trust him. And you know, I love how Peter was suiting up, and then we get this awesome scene where
I was about to bring that up. That was the most that's one of my favorite spider suits ever. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that armor, lad?
Yeah, this is the Spider Armor Mark III that Peter developed himself, and it's, you know, also known as the Ends of the Earth suit. It has a lot of tech built into it that he's stolen from other people. Like, he has some Doc Ock tech built into this, and he has countermeasures for all members of the Sinister Six in it. So he's really, really going serious with this suit, and it was a really cool. It works really well to fight alongside the Avengers, you know, in this suit together.
I'm surprised he doesn't use that more often. I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But what I like about the storyline is that it puts him leading the Avengers, which, as far as I know, we've never really seen Spider-Man in a leadership role next to Captain America, next to the big leagues.
Yeah, that was really fun.
It's kind of cool. Well, it makes sense because of like Spider-Man, we're dealing with your guys just to tell us what to do.
Right. That was really cool to see like Spider-Man leading the Avengers team, and you know, that was cool. That was cool to see. And
then I like Doc Ock's little coffin that he's in with the arms. He looks like a spider.
Yeah. At this point, Doc is already like dying so much that he's basically in a what I would say a Bacta tank. You know, like he's in a machine that's preserving his body, but he's completely encased. So he just has 8 mechanical arms. So he really goes full octopus in this.
And then one of my favorite scenes is where Spider-Man rolls into like this environment summit and punches Al Gore in the face, but it's Chameleon. But everyone for a second there was like, did he just punch Al Gore in the face?
Yeah, that's a great moment.
That's hilarious.
That's a great moment for everyone to see that, like, he walks in and says, because the different countries are saying, well, maybe we can trust Dr. Octavius. And then Spider-Man literally walks into the summit and says that they can't trust him. And Al Gore stands up and says, you know, I'm an environmentalist. You know, I think this could be a chance for it. And Spider-Man's like, you want to hear my rebuttal? And literally punches Al Gore in the face. And everyone's in shock. You see Obama and everyone.
Yeah. I love how when he like walks in and like they're like, you have no authority to be her, Spider-Man. This is for foreign dignitaries. And Thor's like, I am Thor, son of Odin. He's my most loyal counsel. Spider-Man, continue.
Right.
It's like you didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that coming, right? And it turned out that Al Gore is actually a chameleon in disguise, and that Spidey had built into his suit a kind of like a sonar sense, like Daredevil has, so he could detect Chameleon's heartbeat from like a mile away. So that's how he knew it was him. So Spidey's really stepping up his game in all this.
And then this was also my first time reading about the character of Silver Sable, because I mean, my only exposure to her was like when I watched the gameplay for the Spider-Man PS4 game, because she briefly shows up in that. But previous to that, I was like, who is this obvious Black Widow clone? But she's not really a Black Widow clone.
Right.
Turns out she's like the leader of a foreign country.
Yeah, Silver Sable's a cool character. I know about her from a video game, from Spider-Man Unlimited. She's a really cool character. Like, she was kind of like a mercenary enemy character, and then she'd worked along Spider-Man many times. And they're actually on good terms together. So I really enjoyed actually reading a comic with her in the lead here. You know, she runs a country also. You know, her character develops over time, but it's really cool to see her and Spider-Man, their relationship during the storyline.
And I love, by the way, Chameleon escapes in a car that looks very much like the Rise of the Silver Surfer Fantastic car. I'm like, wait a second.
It looks kind of familiar, yeah.
Yeah. So Chameleon heads back to the base of the Sinister Six base, and then the Avengers and Spider-Man show up. But the Avengers get like trounced by the Sinister Six.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But okay, what I did like is that Hawkeye fires an arrow at Mysterio, and Mysterio makes it look like the arrow missed, but Spider-Man's like, "No, you got him. It's just an illusion."
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was really cool to see Spider-Man like really at the top of his game here. You know, he was taking out people left and right. You know, with Mysterio, it's like, "Hey, you got him." He had electro-proof tech. That was really good to see.
I love how Thor like gets stabbed from behind by like Rhino.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, this is odd. And then I love this. Captain America's one weakness is being frozen again.
Frozen in ice.
I'm like, nah. And I love, but by the way, it's Red Hulk. It's not even normal Hulk, even though they call him normal Hulk, but it's Ross. So I'm like, oh, that's a nice detail.
Yeah, that was a nice little touch there. Yeah.
And then what I didn't expect reading this was seeing the Sinister Six beat the Avengers.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy because they're normally like Spider-Man tier villains, but Doc has really upped his game to face off against the Avengers, and Spider-Man has also been upping his game to try to, counter them. He's has some tech built into his suit to try to do that, but Doc is one step ahead. Like, he got a tooth from the Midgard serpent, which I think you've heard of, right? The Midgard serpent from Thor lore. And that thing can kill Thor basically. So that's installed on Rhino's head to, take out Thor. They're freezing Captain America. They shoot down Widow's ship. Hulk is hit by a, gamma ray from the leader that disables him. Like, they are really going all out here to stop the Avengers. So Doc knows what he's doing.
It reminds me very much of the Justice League story at Tower of Babel when Ra's al Ghul had like the contingency plans and then took out each member of the JLA.
Yeah, that's true.
So Silver Sable shows up at the last second, saves Black Widow and Spider-Man, and they leave. And then I love how, so previous to this whole incident, J. Jonah Jameson, who is the mayor of New York, keeps screwing around with Horizon Labs because they're a menace because they help Spider-Man. So they have to go on basically a cruise ship.
Yeah.
And this whole time they're on the cruise ship. And I love how Doc keeps trying to justify the whole, we replaced Al Gore and all this stuff. He's like, oh, don't worry. I just wanted to make sure you took the place of a vice president. The hell, man?
And then he makes a few demands, like, I need a couple $1 billion for each person. I want a museum built in my honor. And we need 200 of my Octo drones in the air to create the greenhouse fixing device.
And I love how Spider-Man, Sable, and Natasha head to the Sahara, and so what they're trying to take out are these factories that are basically building Ox satellites that will apparently not cure global warming but destroy the world. Hence the title of the book. So they head outside, and then Sandman's in the Sahara Desert, which I'm like thinking, that's a genius idea. We've never seen Sandman in an environment filled only with sand.
Yep. Yeah.
And then Spider-Man has this, I feel like, kind of a convenient weakness for Sandman, which is there's this one grain of sand that is like his command and control. It's his brain, it's his soul, and this one grain. If we shoot it, he will decompose.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, it's like that one speck that's actually the true essence of Sandman, and then all the rest of it's kind of like fills them up. I was like, okay, kind of interesting.
And then they use an iPhone app to like disrupt the stand.
Like spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, everyone. Kind of like how Peter Parker takes over Doc Ock's arm by using his phone app and Bluetooth.
When I saw that in the movie, I was like, "Oh, that's way better than what I was expecting."
Right.
So then there's sort of a time jump with like Spider-Man, Sable, and Widow going on the run, which I really like how they sort of make it where the whole world turns against them to the point where even S.H.I.E.L.D. is hunting down Spider-Man. So I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that was interesting to see where Doc Ock has really convinced the entire world that he can do it, and he's going to save the world, and they agree, and Spider-Man is the villain, and he's on the run, and the whole world hates him. Kind of like J. Jonah Jameson must be so happy during all this to see Spider-Man like a global menace, basically.
And then I love so Spider-Man decides I can't be everywhere at once, so I'm going to need to recruit a team of heroes to hit these facilities. And apparently so he recruits Titanium Man, which I'm like, okay, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
This British version of the Punisher, but then like this guy from Australia that looks like a bunny, or
right,
he's like a kangaroo. So I'm like, and then this book reminded me that Big Hero 6 is a Marvel property to the point where I'm like, who the hell are these people in Japan? And I'm like, oh,
right. Because it's weird they were comic book characters and they're so different. And then when Disney kind of like adapted them into the movie, they really got rid of a lot of the character designs and made them a lot more fun and unique looking, I guess. I wonder if some comic book fans might have like been upset about how Disney adapted them, but for a lot of people that didn't know, they weren't well-known characters. So Disney basically took them and made them cool, like Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think most people really loved the Big Hero 6 characters.
I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah. So I didn't even know it was Marvel until Stan Lee showed up at the end. I was like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah. Wait, he did a cameo in that movie too?
Yeah, at the very end of it, it turns out that he's actually Fred's dad that was like a superhero with a whole $1 billion mansion and everything.
That is great. All right. So we have like Sabra, Union Jack, Kangaroo. It was a really original name.
Yeah.
So it's like, I wonder if Dan Slott was like going to like the Marvel handbook, just flipping to a random page and just going, stop. Okay, Kangaroo.
Yeah.
Sabra.
I want him on the team.
And Marvel editorial is not going to say no, because who really is going to complain about these characters that no one's heard of?
Yeah. No, that's true.
So then, as a sign that he will do it, our good friend Doc like basically destroys Simcaria. Destroys air quotes.
Yeah.
And for if you don't know, Simcaria, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the country that Silver Sable runs.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. When I first read this book, without going ahead or anything, I was like, oh. So you took out half the planet.
Oh,
I'm like,
shoot.
They even said it's half the planet. So I'm like, what the hell? Why does anyone still follow this guy?
Yeah. Like, Doc is like serious. Like, Doc, I'm telling you, Doc Ock is like a serious madman. Like, he is a A-list villain here. That's why I love Doctor Octopus.
Yeah, and then we have an issue that's basically showing all the side characters doing their operations to take out these launch facilities. We see Kangaroo, and a lot of them get killed because like Deathstrike kills the Kangaroo dude. Excuse me, while I'm so sad that the Kangaroo guy no one's ever heard of previous to the storyline died. And then I love this. This is my favorite. So Sabra is running toward a missile, and then she just gets like sniped by Crossbow, who's like Crossbones, who's like eating a hamburger. It's like wham, she's done.
Yep.
And then Titanium Man is attacked by Mac Gargan. Only it's apparently the Iron Scorpion.
Right. Yeah. He has some tech.
Then like Manchester Black, sorry, Union Jack. Manchester Black is basically a UK DC hero. This is how much DC fan. So Union Jack. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Len.
I was gonna say that there's that when you mentioned DC, there's that one scene from earlier on in the comic where they get into Silver Sable's
Invisible Jet, and Spider-Man's like, this seems like something from a comic book. Like,
yeah, it's like an invisible jet. That sounds like something out of a comic book.
Like, well done, Slott. Love that one. As a DC, that's on the par of the so dark is shit off from the DC universe. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool.
That's great.
I get why he wrote that joke, and I'm like, you know what? I like that. That's a good joke.
That's fantastic.
That's what I like about Dan Slott's writing is that he gets the Spider-Man humor because that's so something Spider-Man would say.
Yeah. And
then apparently Union Jack is attacked by someone named Slaymaster Mark II, who's like a high-tech ninja-like assassin.
Right.
And then obviously he gets killed. Well, he apparently we think that Union Jack is killed when the Octobot attacks him, but then he's like, no, I'm good. Spider-Man, Sable, and Rhino show up, and then he's like hanging out on the robot. Like, you just gotta know where to hit them.
Right, exactly.
And then we get Big Hero 6 that shows up, and I'm like, okay, I know who these characters are.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, and then they have a fight. Although Baymax looks way different. Oh yeah, my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Baymax. Like, Baymax. He's a Power Ranger boss.
They really stripped this character down to like the bare minimum they could do for Baymax.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay. Combat armor variant. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Even the dude that can imitate a dragon, and I'm like, he couldn't do that in the movie.
Right.
So they managed to take out the missile facility. That's it for that. So what's kind of funny is, so then they're trying to save people, but so Black Widow's like, no, we can't afford to save people. We have to get out of here. And Spider-Man's like, well, that's cold. Until he finally picks up to the fact that this is all an illusion by Mysterio, and I'm like, he's that good?
Yeah, Mysterio, yeah, definitely.
And that's what I think they did really well in the movie is that they had like the drones that would like be the hologram of what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mysterio. Yeah, it's cool actually seeing Mysterio as like, a main villain in Far From Home.
Mm-hmm. And then I love how he tries to market himself as a hero, and I'm with my very cursory understanding of Spider-Man. Even I'm like, wait a second. And there's a line from the Bumblebee movie that perfectly encapsulates this. With a name like Decepticons, shouldn't we be a little suspicious? With a name like Mysterio,
right?
It's not like Thor, Captain America, Mysterio. What?
Exactly.
You're really buying that?
Yeah.
So Octavius attacks Peter, but it's actually, again, Chameleon in disguise. And I love all the times that like Octavius will like take over someone to like talk through them. Mm-hmm. And Spider-Man's immediately like, okay, now you're Doctor Octopus.
Right.
I love how, so they figure out it's Chameleon. And then I love how, okay, so they try to interrogate Chameleon, and Chameleon's immediately like, I won't talk. And then Natasha's like, is like saying, Chameleon, you know me, and I know what you wish to keep hidden. Things you kept even from the Kravenov family. I know your secret of your true face. Now don't make a sound. And immediately he's like, okay. It's like there was that one scene in JLU where like Deadshot shows up and then he won't talk, and then Batman just whispers something in his ear, and then he goes, okay, I'll tell you.
Man.
I love how a Black Widow is at that level where everyone's like, "Oh no, keep her away."
Yeah, exactly. She knows too much.
She knows too much. Oh no, that's a good plan. And I love how Mysterio how like Spider-Man is apparently talking to someone in the distance, and he's like, "Okay, you know what? The world's gonna get blown up, so you're not gonna be able to spend the $2 billion that Doctor Octopus gave you. So
Right.
why don't you come with us and help us save the world?" And he's talking to Mysterio. Now, and then Mysterio's like, "Okay." And then so we're getting Spider-Man teaming up with Mysterio, which when I'm reading this, I'm like, "Oh, that's actually really cool."
Mm-hmm.
And apparently MJ buys buys real estate, which is essentially the old hideout of a supervillain, which I think is kind of random.
Yeah.
And then I love Mary and J. Jonah Jameson's father. You're seeing how JJ and his father have like a strained relationship.
Right.
And then I love how Ock's base is basically like at a Mayan temple, and Mysterio's like, "Are you kidding me with all that 2012 Mayan end of the world thing? I thought this was an appropriate set." And I'm like,
yeah,
that's a good point.
That's good. That was really good, actually.
And then the ship is shot down after Ock basically says, "Oh, I've been building up the ranks of the Sinister Six," because one of my favorite parts of this book is when Spider-Man would basically say, "Okay, Ock, you're down to like the like troublesome two at this point."
Exactly.
He keeps alliterizing how many Sinister Six members are left, and I'm like, that's great. And then Ock is like, "I beg to differ, Spider-Man. I control the Avengers." And immediately I'm like, "Uh-oh.
Mind control. All right."
I'm like, wait a second. And I'm like, why isn't Ock an Avengers level villain at this point?
Right, exactly.
If he could do this.
Man.
So it turns out, so basically the way it works is that his Octobots like wired into their brains, so he's controlling them.
Right.
And talking through them. And so they're fighting. And then Peter finally realizes, okay, so Ock was able to defeat all the Avengers using my tech.
Right.
And I'm like, ooh, even more like Tower of Babel.
Yeah. That was great. That I love that moment in there.
And then I love where like he's fighting Spider-Woman and Peter's like, "Oh, please don't be angry at me, Jess. Please don't be angry at me, Jess." And he's like, he defeats her. He's like, "I really hope you won't be pissed off at me."
Yeah.
And then I love where this is the moment where I'm like, Dan Slott understands these characters, because when Ock takes over Thor to like attack Spider-Man, the hammer doesn't work anymore because you have to be worthy. So I'm like, oh, that's an awesome detail. I wasn't expecting that.
That was a great little detail there. You know, Spider-Man really knows his stuff there. And playing into Doc's superiority complex, where it's like, well, you take over full control of Thor to defeat me. And when he does that, he can't wield the hammer anymore.
So I'm like, because that immediately answers the question: if Thor is mind controlled, whoever's mind controlling him can't use the hammer.
Exactly. That was cool.
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's super dope. And I love Silver Sable like beats the crap out of Captain America. Mm-hmm. And then Mysterio conveniently now realizes, oh yeah, I have an EMP. I could have done this like at the beginning of this fight.
Yeah.
He literally goes, "Sorry, should have thought of it sooner, but it was my last gag." And I hate repeating myself. And I mean, where's the fun in that? Because he used an EMP earlier. Right. So I'm like, this is the time to repeat yourself, bro. You're fighting the Avengers.
He's a very theater-oriented person. He has to make sure it's a great display.
And then so the Avengers are now free. Doc launches his satellites. And I love how like Hulk like jumps at the missiles and he's like punching the missiles. And I'm like, you literally have someone else that could fly. Why is Hulk doing this? It's cool as hell. But I'm like, what?
Oh boy.
A little too convenient. And then they finally find Doc's base, which is like this like big, like it reminds me of in Transformers G1 where that Decepticons had like the ocean headquarters, and it would just rise up, and then whenever they wanted to leave.
Yeah,
I love where
like.
one of my favorite lines of the book. So Spider-Man, Sable, Mysterio, and Natasha take over. Actually, Mysterio leaves. So Spider-Man and Sable take over one of Doc's like little robot car things, and the Horizon Labs people are like, "You took over one of his Octo tanks," and then Spider-Man's like, "All right, guys, please. It's got 8 legs, and I'm driving it. From here on out, we're calling it the Spider-Mobile Mark II."
Oh, that's so great. That's a great.
I love that.
Great that he takes it over, but also that it's a reference to the Spider-Mobile, which is kind of like a car buggy thing he had, made back in the 80s or something. I don't know, like really cheesy.
That you can use in the Lego game.
Yeah, it's like that. That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, it's literally like this. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Doc also has 8 legs.
Yeah, exactly.
So they get in there, and then we see like the Avengers find the missiles in space, and Hulk is like holding his breath in space, fighting missiles, and I'm like, but the cold.
Hulk, he gets hot when he gets angry, though. So maybe that's
why. Yeah, it's Red Hulk. I forgot about that. See, this is why I have a co-host like you. So then Spider-Man and Sable run into the Rhino, and it turns out Rhino's deal with Doc is that he just wants to see the world burn because his family's like killed. So he's like, you know what? Destroy it.
Man.
And then I love so Sable basically holds, so Rhino is holding her underwater and is like, I will die if I have to keep you from saving her. And Sable's like, go stop him. And this is when Spider-Man breaks his rule of no one dies.
Right.
And so Sable apparently dies, but again, this is comic books. No one dies. And they even looked in the Marvel Encyclopedia. She doesn't die here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she, finds a way to survive and everything. But still, that was a big moment for Spider-Man where he has to go and save the world because, Doc was going to kill, 7 billion plus of the world and only leave a couple thousand people left. So like Doc was literally going to kill everyone on the entire planet. So he had to stop him.
Yeah, even so Spider-Man says, I can't leave you. I made a vow that no one dies. And Sable's like, if you don't go, everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
Which I dug. I love that. So then he's fighting Octavius. And once again, I love this coffin with octopus arms. Like, and I love how throughout this entire book, the artist, which is like Caselli, is able to like communicate how Ock is like wasting away because he clearly does not look healthy.
No, yeah, he's not looking great.
And then they fight, and then Ock to like turn off to like complete his like thing, his plan. He gets out of the suit, and he's like crawling. And Spider-Man just breaks the metal arms. He's like, all right, that's it. I'm done. And I love how Ock's like, how could you? You ruined my plan. And then Spider-Man's like, shut up. So they hop out of the base before it explodes. And then I love how Spider-Man's like, I have to go back. And then everyone's like, and then the Horizon Labs is like, you saved us all. He's like, no, I didn't. And then the Horizon Labs guy is like, wait. He's like, what do you mean? And then Spider-Man just simply says, someone died again.
Yeah.
Comic books. So then we get the conclusion where it's Spider-Man diving in the ocean, and he comes up, and the Avengers are like, okay, we have to escort Ock to like the raft, so you have to come with us. While they're on the way, Spider-Man is showing where he first gained where he first saw who Sable really is. Is the story where, so there's this queen of a country. I mean, this princess, and it's so hilarious. He shows up at the meeting place, and in the limo is the princess, Sable, and Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange opens it up with, you have to marry this girl now.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and then Spider-Man legit goes, but I have a girlfriend.
Right.
And so basically the thing is that this is the occasion of an arranged marriage with Doctor Doom.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to find someone for her to marry. Otherwise, Doom is going to have control of this other country or something like that. Right. So they find this other person she likes and goes to go retrieve him, but not before Doom shows up and like completely wrecks everyone. And Spider-Man finds the dude that the princess is supposed to marry, brings him to like the embassy. And then I love where Dr. Doom is like, "Oh, I see. You have deprived me of my new power, of my new country. All right, I'm out. You just made a very dangerous enemy." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
okay, bro, we got it, Victor. We got you."
I like it. I like how when Doom is defeated in some way like that, like politically or just in a battle, he retreats respectfully and like he just leaves. Like he doesn't like continue fighting to the death. Like he's like, I will, we'll meet again, and just like he just leaves, like he's very like noble in that sense,
Yeah. And if I were Spider-Man, I would yell back, "I'll see you retreating again."
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
And then I love her. And then we get like, so this is basically like Spider-Man communicating to like Captain America. This is who Silver Sable really was. She was a hero and all that stuff. She wasn't some mercenary. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool character. So they arrive at the raft, and then I love how Spider-Man is taunting Doctor Octopus, and he's like, okay, you're gonna be here until you die. So you'll be here for a couple of months. See you later. And then he goes back to the ocean. You have like, we have S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing this whole little is this search and rescue operation. I like how Spider-Man is in like the classic outfit with the wings at the
the webbing,
which they imitated in No Way Home and Homecoming, which I really liked. I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing there.
Yeah.
So that's Ends of the Earth, which, okay, now let me ask you this, Lad. Which event do you like more, Spider Island or this? Because I like this more.
I like this one a lot more. The Spider Island was cool. I read that one first, but this storyline was so crazier. Seeing, I think the Avengers were used better here, where we actually saw them fight against the Sinister Six and against Spidey. Where the Avengers got spider powers, but they were just on the side and the side stories. And the nice thing about Ends of the Earth is that it's all contained in the main Amazing Spider-Man and the 2 one-shots that go with it, where Spider Island had like a million tie-ins and it was so confusing.
Yeah, I noticed that. When I was at the comic book store, I was trying to find Spider Island to buy, because I'm like, okay, I'll get that. It's really fun. I already had this in my cart, so I see Spider Island, and then it's not the actual book. It's the companion that has every tie-in, and it's about as thick as like basically this. So I'm like, how many tie-ins are in this damn thing?
Yeah, no, it had a lot. This was nice because it was a single storyline that was continued throughout the 7, 8, 9 comics that it contained, and it was a really cool storyline to see Doc Ock and Spider-Man both stepping up their game to take on bigger threats, where the Sinister Six is facing Avengers level threat, and Spider-Man's trying to take them all on his own, and getting to see Silver Sable show up and seeing the Avengers turned evil and Doc basically gonna destroy the entire world. It was really cool. And also seeing Spider-Man kind of like break his oath where he said he wasn't gonna let anyone die. That was really cool, because that was a big thing they set up in the big time storyline. And Spider Island also, he mentioned how he wasn't gonna let anyone die when he wouldn't kill the Spider Queen, and the clone did it instead.
Yeah, the clone's like, I got it. Boof.
Right, exactly. So it's really interesting to see that here now, where he faces the outcome of letting someone die. So that was really cool. A really great emotional storyline with a lot of of great moments.
Plus, I think it gives more credence to how much of a hero Spider-Man is, because look at what Doc Ock was able to do to the world. Now, Peter Parker deals with this guy pretty much every day.
Yeah.
So it's like he's dealing with basically an Avengers level threat every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
And he always manages to come on top. So I'm like, it gives credence to how awesome Spider-Man is, keeping it on theme with last week's Under Two Capes episode.
That's right. Yeah, that's why I love Doc Ock so much. Maybe a little more than Green Goblin a bit. Doc Ock is so cool. Doc is the best. Mm-hmm.
I dig. I like this storyline. Made me like Doc Ock because I'm like, this dude.
Yeah,
if you could take out the Earth's mightiest heroes and then take them over, that's a new level, dude.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. What did you think of the comic book?
I loved it. I felt it was a really cool use of the Sinister Six, and shows like the threat that these guys face. Obviously, I love the Spider Armor Mark III because it's basically Spider-Man's like last resort. Like, it's a Swiss Army suit. Every good tech-based superhero has that type of suit. Batman has it. It's called like the Insider suit. So as you know, we covered Final Crisis, and when Batman came back, his idea was he wanted to test the Bat family, just to test them, see how they've been faring. So he does. He dresses up in this armor that imitates all the powers of the Justice League and then just fights them.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, okay, that's what this is kind of reminding me of, because like this armor is literally intended to take out the Justice League. I mean, the Sinister Six. And Batman actually had that armor too, because the Joker Jokerized the Justice League, and they came after him. He's got like the anti-Justice League armor called the Justice Buster, and I'm like,
oh, nice.
Okay,
yeah.
And I'm like,
that's
and
really
I'm wondering I wonder if the suit is still around. I mean, it wasn't destroyed or anything, so this could still return.
That's true.
I'm like, oh, please. And I love how I did like how it expanded like the lore surrounding these like these six. I know I made jokes about how corny it is that there's this one grain of sand, one grain of sand that is the essence of Sandman. But I'm like, I wondered how the hell he works, and I'm like, I'm glad they gave me some answer.
Right? Yeah. Like, well, is it like a collective? Like, how does that work? Yeah. That was pretty cool, and Electro got taken out pretty quickly. He'll be back.
Thor just launches him into space.
Yeah, I guess they should have seen that coming, that Thor, controlling lightning and everything.
Lightning. And then I love where they're fighting the Avengers to getting their asses kicked, and the Mysterio is like, oh yeah, I have an EMP.
Yeah, exactly.
I could have used this before, but I like to repeat my tricks. And I'm like, dude, really?
Dude, yeah, that was great. Yeah.
I love Mysterio in this. I loved each of the villains, and I liked how like they kept like teasing that like Rhino and Doc Ock had like a special deal, and all it is that Rhino gets to watch the world burn.
Right. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. Even Sandman had a bit of a character, because he said like, he wants to be with his daughter. He wants to get the custody back, and that was something he was really looking forward to. Even Cap mentioned. Yeah, exactly. I remember in the classic comics, Sandman, he's a bad guy, but he's not like super evil. Like, even in the amazing, in the Tobey Maguire movies, we see him where he has that redemption there. And so Sandman's a character who's, kind of conflicted a bit, and he really wants to be back with his daughter. And, he sees this as a way like, Doc's going to save the world, and I'm going to be rich, and I'll be able to get back with my daughter. So sounds a good plan.
Yeah. What it shows is that I think what Spider-Man's like rogues gallery is that a lot of them aren't people that like started evil. They're just dudes that had like bad luck, basically. It's not like the Joker.
Right.
Yeah. The Joker's inherently evil. I would say Lex Luthor's inherently evil. I would say all these guys pretty much are just like dudes that had like a rough go and then just had to turn to like a life of evil.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it shows with how often Spider-Man, even Captain America is talking to Sandman saying, "You were an Avenger." And side note, I was like, when was Sandman an Avenger?
Yeah, I think that happened at some point earlier on, that he joined the Avengers. I like seeing Sandman's storyline, because I remember in the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, he actually turns good and actually helps Spider-Man fight off against the Sinister Six in some storyline. So yeah, that was really nice. I like, because this comic book came out in 2012, around the time of Ultimate Spider-Man TV show. A lot of the character designs come from these comics. Like Doc's design, like his whole spider cocoon, you see that in the TV show. Like he upgrades his suit into that design. So
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I like seeing the comics get adapted into the show.
I'm waiting for a show to put him in the Spider Armor Mark III. Just saying.
I know.
I want. You can use that in the Spider-Man game, and that makes me want to buy a PS4 just so I can play the game.
Yes, the armor is really sick.
I would use that or any of the armor from the MCU, and I'm good.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's all I need.
Same.
What was your favorite part from the event?
Ooh, favorite part from the event. Ooh, that's a tough one. I really like seeing Spider-Man and Doc facing off against each other during the Avengers Sinister Six fight. Like seeing that whole dialogue where Spidey is gaining the upper hand, but then Doc really sweeps the Avengers, and it's just one-on-one Peter versus Octavius. That was a great moment. And seeing Doc, actually defeat Peter there, that was really great. I love that, where they're both trying to be the best, and Doc really gets the upper hand.
My favorite is when he waltzes into that meeting and then punches fake Al Gore in the face. Because he's like, here's my retort. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, even I was like, okay, wait. I'm like, first, when I first read that moment before I turned the page and saw it was Chameleon, I was like, man, Spider-Man's not messing around. Then I turned the page and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I know that, yeah. Especially the early parts of this comic, the first half of it had a lot of really great moments like that. Like, the rest of it also, but it had so many great moments, like, Peter there and, the Sinister Six talking with each other just before they get into the fight. I love all that dialogue. Even the very beginning. Oh, yeah.
And when he puts on the new armor, he shows up with the Avengers, and then they're like, Spider-Man, is that? And he goes, yes, new armor. Can we move on now? Thank you. Yeah. There's only one phrase we should be saying right now, and that's Avengers Assemble.
Exactly. Yeah, it's true. Peter's really stepping up, and I love how even the very first page where Peter's like, I decided
on a goblin glider,
my enemies, and he's using the goblin glider, and he painted the bombs that look like Spider-Man, that look like Spidey bombs, and
I love that.
Out fires. Like, that's funny.
Copyright. Infringement. It'd be hilarious. They should do like a one-off storyline where Green Goblin sues him.
Yeah, like that's my persona. That's a trademark Green Goblin design. Yes, but
it was also pretty interesting to see how many famous people are drawn this book, like Stephen Hawking, Angela Merkel, Barack Obama, Al Gore, and I'm like, but I just love where they're all like, Spider-Man, you shouldn't be in here. This is the place for state dignitary leaders. And then Thor's like, I am Thor, son of Odin, king of Asgard. He is my counsel. Spider-Man, continue.
Yeah, I like that Thor pulls the king card out.
Yeah, I would have said, if I was Spider-Man, I would say, yeah, I'm not dignitary. This guy is.
Yeah, this guy is. Exactly.
And then I think one of my favorite parts, it's up there, is when Doc Ock takes over Thor and the hammer just falls out of his hand. He's like, what the hell? He's like, and then even he's like, you really don't get how the hammer works, do you?
Right. Yeah. That was great.
because I appreciate that attention to detail where, oh yeah, it wouldn't work because Thor's not in control of his actions, ergo Thor's not worthy.
Right. That's right.
So what else can be said about Ends of the Earth, which is basically, I love how many references they make to 2012, the end of the world in this. That was really funny.
Right. Yeah, that was, I didn't even realize that yeah, it tied in with that time period, I guess. There. But
yeah. When for some reason people thought the world was going to end like that, I'm like,
right.
What?
Yeah.
You really thought it was going to spontaneously explode?
Yeah. It's funny because I was hanging out at Nicholas's house on the day that it was
supposed to end.
Yeah. And I was like, so I guess the world's ending today.
I was at a show with my family because it was like shortly after Christmas, I think was the day it was supposed to end. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Still here. All right, that's it.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't believe that we thought the world was going to end because the Mayans ran out of paper, essentially.
Right. Yeah. It's like
they ran out of Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Plus the fact, if the world was going to end, don't you think we would have felt it way earlier? That's the one thing the 2012 movie got right, is that we started to feel it and see it before, like weeks before it went down.
Exactly.
That's where I was like, I can't believe we're believing this BS. But here's a hint about how long ago that was. I was in Atlanta.
Wow, that's crazy.
Before I even got into comic books, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love this image of like the sex on top of like the defeated Avengers, and then you have the Doctor Octopus. That's what I'm calling him when he's in that, because it looks. I also really like what that looks like, because he does look like a spider.
Yes, it looks great. It looks great.
And I love when he's in the Octo Tank thing, and then he goes, "Okay, guys, this has 8 legs, and I'm in it. Can we please call it the Spider-Mobile Mark II?"
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it should be.
And then I liked how effectively they used the character of Silver Sable, and that she wasn't like some like side the third wheel to Spider-Man and Natasha, and that she was actually a character. Because I feel like, because she's not as well known as like Black Widow or Spider-Man, so you have that concern that she's going to be like this, like a character like, okay, and Sable's here.
Right. Yeah. That I'm glad that she had a big starring role there, alongside, Widow and Spidey. And I kind of want to know more about her character, because I learned about her from the video game I was playing, and she was a really cool character. And I love seeing her dynamic with Spidey. But one thing I wanted to point out as we're starting to close up here is that since the main comics, aside from the one-shots, is 6 storylines, the variant comic covers are included here. And it's one for each of the Sinister 6. And I'll just flip through them kind of quickly. It's towards the very end of the book.
Yeah. Okay, Doc Ock.
Doc Ock there, that great picture. I love
that. That looks so cool.
That is insanely cool looking, seeing him there. We have
and then Shocker.
Yeah, or Electro there, really frying him. And all these are like Spidey's getting wrecked. Sandman looks like about to break Spidey's back. We have Chameleon dressed up there, and he's really taking out Spidey. Mysterio.
I love how you see the reflection of his mask in the Mysterio helmet.
Yes, that's so good. Seeing him kind of like trapped in the illusion. And then finally, Rhino, just taking out Spider-Man right there. So that's great. I love it. Was a really great run, because I wondered, like, Sinister 6, maybe it gets boring facing them off again, but this comic really stepped up the game for Spider-Man and Doctor Octopus. And I think we both enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, we're just going to check out some more comic books from different series, check out some more Spider-Man. And And remember that, the next storyline after this is the Dying Wish storyline where, Octavius is looks really wasted right now, but he's about to die. Peter's going to end up dying also. And then the Superior Spider-Man starts.
Which I'm excited because I've never, never read Superior Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All I know is that it's a really dope looking costume. My only exposure to Superior Spider-Man was in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers because that was during that time period. And all of a sudden Peter's talking and insulting people and acting like he's above everyone else. And I'm like, the hell is going on? This is not Peter Parker. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's not. And then I remember you told me at some point Doc Ock took over and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I'm really excited because I've heard that run is really good. I've noticed that a lot of the modern famous Spider-Man stories are Dan Slott.
Yeah, Dan Slott,
because he had a really long, amazing Spider-Man run.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I look forward to covering more Spider-Man stories, and I appreciate the recommendation for this. I definitely enjoyed it. And now I have the Spider Armor Mark II in my comic book collection, so I'm really happy about that. That's the coolest Spider-Man suit I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Short of the MCU Iron Spider suit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I hope everyone else enjoyed the comic book event we covered. And we'll keep checking out our channel to see more storylines. We're going to keep covering different characters, different storylines, and just, run through some fun stuff.
Yeah, we have tons of amazing plans, and we are currently working on getting a gaming show up and running, which is basically us playing superhero themed games and watching me completely trounce everyone in Injustice.
Yeah.
And Lad run from my Wonder Woman character as I completely slaughter everyone else.
Yeah.
But be on the lookout for that, and we will see you in actually, this is our last episode of the year.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys watching and listening, either on audio or on YouTube. Throughout this year, we promise you 2022 is going to be a really a great year for content, and we look forward to working with you guys. All right, see you guys next year, and stay heroic, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.